Hello, welcome to The Collision. I'm Daniel Blackaby, and I'm here with my wife Sarah, and we just got back from seeing the new DreamWorks animated film, Abominable. So let's talk about it. Well, when you're a parent and a movie reviewer, you end up seeing probably a lot more animated kids' films than most adults get to see or have to see. And it tends to be somewhat of a mixed bag. If the last animated film that I reviewed for this site, the words abomination and garbage heap were used to describe Angry Birds 2. Actually, the first review we ever did on The Collision was for the animated film Smallfoot, also about animated Yetis. And in that film, the message is one of the most militantly atheistic, disturbing messages I've seen in a film, animated or live action, in years. So we went into this film not sure what to expect. It wasn't really on our radar. Some of like the Pixar movies, all the hype. But what did you think coming out of the theater? We took our two boys to see this one. What were your first thoughts on the film?
I loved it. Especially as a mom, like to be able to take your kids to a movie and like they are able to get through the whole movie. It was great just to see them pay attention and laugh and giggle through the whole movie. So.
Yeah, I felt similar to this movie. I really, really enjoyed this film a lot more than I have probably in any other animated film in at least the last year, if not more. The animation is about what you'd expect at this point from modern day animated films. Maybe not quite at the level of Pixar at its peak, but just some beautiful imagery, some great animation. I love the artistic style. It was a little different than some of the more recent animated films. The story itself is familiar. It's one, it's not reinventing the wheel in any way, as far as kind of a narrative storyline. But how would you just give a quick, what's the premise of this film?
I feel like it's like two different characters that are lost, and like the girl has lost her father. And just trying to work through the grief of all that, and then a lost Yeti trying to get its way back to its home, so they kind of come together and with a few other characters just try and show how the journey back there.
Yeah, and then the nuts and bolts of that story is probably familiar to all of you. How to Train Your Dragon is a similar story. Even E.T. Is a live action version of that, as far as someone struggling, a kid struggling with dealing with some emotional stuff, meets a magical creature. They go on a journey, and in helping the creature, the child finds themselves as well. They're not doing anything new that hasn't been said, but I think the thing that makes this film kind of rise above some of the sludge of other recent animated films is the way it handles it is a lot more subdued and kind of delicate. There's not a whole lot of poop jokes and just zany slapstick. It's not really a laugh out loud, gag a minute kind of film. It's a lot more subdued and kind of almost artfully done in that way.
Yeah, the girl doesn't get like super angry like you see a lot of times with the story. Like she's pretty like still level-headed. She just kind of is dealing with the grief in a different way, and so it's just kind of nice to see like not the like cliche way that you see kids like deal with grief in movies. But
yeah, it's a more mature telling of this kind of classic story. And even the characters, there's three kids that go on this adventure to get this Yeti back to Mount Everest, and being pursued by government agencies and all that you'd come to expect. But it's more, the characters themselves, it's more about family. The two other characters are cousins, but there's really no romantic overtones you just sort of expect in all these films. It's more just about finding yourself and finding friendship, and just the way it handled it, kind of retelling the same classic story in a bit of a different, more mature way than we're used to. The central theme in this is what Sarah was mentioning earlier, which is sort of classic for this sort of story, but it's kind of the whole idea of getting this Yeti back to its house, back to its home where it comes from. And in the process, the main character, this, I don't know if she'd be 16, 17-year-old girl, dealing with the loss of her father, just sort of feeling isolated and lost. It's kind of in a more symbolic way as she's helping this Yeti go on this journey. She's also kind of journeying into herself and just learning to deal with some of this pain that she's kind of pushed to the side.
Yeah, she kind of isolates her family a little bit and kind of keeps herself busy. and doesn't really deal with any of the stuff going on inside and like grief and everything, but is just kind of like coming out of that and realizing like there's more than just her father and her relationship and what they had. Like her mother and her grandmother are there too, and like kind of coming back all.
Yeah, kind of like her journey hasn't stopped. There's still more life ahead of her, and in helping this Yeti, she comes to realize some of this and some kind of just come to grips with some of this, her loss and her grief, but in a very, I thought, delicate way of handling, a mature way. Like our two boys are about 5 years old, and some of the deeper themes of dealing with it, I think, probably went over their heads. But they were able to grasp the sense that she's sad and she's coming to terms with it, and that this Yeti and the friendship that they build helps her overcome some of that and kind of find happiness again. To mention too, the other kind of theme throughout the story is just the power of music and power of art. The girl,
it's beautiful in music.
Yeah, the music in the film itself is wonderful. The main character is a violin player. That sort of her father was a violin player, and so music's kind of her last connection to her father that she has. When she plays the violin, it kind of gets her back in tune with her father, and the way the film handles that kind of throughout the story, but just sort of the power of music to connect with this Yeti, this creature, but also just in a larger sense, kind of connecting with her father and continuing on his memory.
Because she stops playing, and so her getting in front of people, and so she's kind of trying to get confidence back that like it's okay to share that with other people, because it was kind of her and her father's thing, but she wanted to share it with her family.
Yeah, and this is a very soothing way that the story integrates this kind of classical music into the story, which I found, when compared to a lot of the other soundtracks of animated and kids films, it was refreshing to have this thing a little more subdued and relaxing. Well, Sarah, why don't we get what were your kind of final thoughts as you were leaving the theater, processing the film? What's sort of your main assessment or takeaway from this film?
I guess I gauge a lot of like kids movies. I kind of said it before, but like how well my kids get through the movie, and so one that was they made it through the whole movie without getting up or wanting to move around, and so that one just means like it's engaging for younger kids, and so and I really just enjoyed it. I thought it was a really beautiful, artistically as an artist, I just enjoyed the animation, and but it was just a great story. And
yeah, it's probably good to mention too. We kind of mentioned that the film is a little more subdued, not as zany as like an Angry Birds or some of these other, like a Minions movie. But the movie isn't boring by any means.
The kids are laughing the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot of humor, that doesn't stoop just to the bottom level of kids' humor. It respects that kids can get some of this humor. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of, they're being pursued the whole time by this kind of the villains in the story trying to get the Yeti. So it's not a slow movie or a boring movie by any means. It's just a little more mature in the way it handles it, and not just. It's trying to share a message in a story, not just kind of divert or entertain kids for an hour and a half. But yeah, I think I'm with you. I love this movie. I was very surprised by it. I think it's one that definitely, if you have kids, it's worth seeing with them, either in the theaters or if you wait until it comes out on stream. I think it's entertaining. They'll enjoy it. But I also think that the message and some of the themes throughout this film are just good ones for kids to experience, as far as kind of reconnecting, dealing with some of these issues in your own life, and connecting back with your family and kind of finding your confidence again. So I definitely recommend it. I think it's 2 recommends from this table. So we hope, if you do go see it, we'd love to hear your thoughts, love to hear what your kids thought. Make sure, jump into the comment section. We'd love to talk about it with you. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel so you keep up to date with all of our video content. Thank you for watching. We hope you'll continue to collide with your world for Christ.